Hello everyone, I'm Hugo.
And I'm Jake.
And this is Who Cares, where we're going to discuss and debate the Doctor on his adventures through space and time.
And in this episode, we discover that Strax was right about the moon?
I've declared war on the moon.
Do be quiet, Strax.
Too long the moon has hung unmonitored and unsuspected in the sky. It has gained an enormous tactical advantage.
There's no one living there.
Then it is clearly time to act. They won't suspect a thing.
Who won't suspect a thing?
Moonites.
Hello everyone, as I said, I'm Hugo.
And I'm Jake.
And this is Who Cares. Today we're going to be discussing Kill the Moon.
Written
by Peter Harness, and this was the first time he's written for Doctor Who, actually.
It shows.
And I'm just gonna say, personally, this was my least favorite episode of the season.
I'd say it's tied with Sherwood. For me. Because, again, I like the stuff in the episode, the filler, but I don't necessarily like the plot.
Yeah, there were a lot of problems with this episode, and overall I thought the idea was good, but a lot of the stuff in it detracts from it to the point of distraction. But
And that said, it was a very Doctor Who episode,
Yeah.
but it just wasn't executed the way you'd expect one of the veteran Doctor Who writers to do it.
yeah. So, I guess we'll find out as we go along exactly what went wrong with Kill the Moon. So, the episode begins and we have a little voiceover from Clara, clearly from the end of the episode, where she's talking to the people of Earth and asking them, what should we do? It's an innocent life versus the future of humanity. And this we're going to talk about later when it comes back to it, because this is one of the parts of the episode that I absolutely hate. Anyway, theme song happens, cut back, Doctor and Clara back at Coal Hill School. And actually, interestingly, I love his shirt. Can I point that out?
Yeah, it's awesome. It's like hipster chic.
I wish he would wear this shirt all the time. I think that's a good Doctor Who shirt because it's weird enough where he's weird, but
It's loud.
It's a real shirt. Like clearly someone would wear that shirt. But
Like the lead singer of like the Neon Trees.
yeah, basically. But she's talking to him and she says, Courtney, she's really upset because you said she wasn't special. This is another thing that bothers me about the episode, that part of the plot hinges on Courtney not feeling special.
Fuck Courtney, though.
I know, and I get it. She's a 15-year-old girl. That would matter to her, but that's the point. Why are you putting a 15-year-old girl in Doctor Who? That's annoying. And don't get me wrong, if you're a 15-year-old girl and you have problems that seem very real to you, that's cool, but like, as a general audience, no one else cares.
No. So she's on the TARDIS already. Apparently Clara let her in or something. I don't know how she got that. She was in there before in the last episode, if you remember, with the caretaker, which, I mean, so it's not really a big deal that she's there, but she's there alone?
Yeah, and she's like cleaning stuff. She's like, oh, I'll be good, blah, blah, blah. Take me on an adventure. And he's like, okay, whatever, sure. And he's gonna take her to the moon. He wants her to be the first woman on the moon, which technically, by what we see in the episode, I don't even think that's true, but
I don't know, but either way, it's kind of a move to just get this girl out of his hair.
Yeah.
And, you know, of course he does it in Doctor Who fashion.
So they land on a space shuttle that's on the way to the moon. It's actually like an original United States space shuttle that has been mothballed. That isn't even a program that's in operation anymore, but that's kind of a theme of the episode too, is we don't have a space program to deal with this sort of thing anymore.
Right.
But they land there, the actual people from the ship, one of whom is a woman, so again, Courtney isn't going to be the first woman on the moon, really.
She steps on it first,
I
though,
guess,
technically.
that's fair. But later in the episode, too, we see that there's a Mexican mining facility here.
Yeah.
So you're telling me not one of the people from the Mexican space program was female either?
I don't know.
Mexico can put miners on the moon, but we can't put one female on it before that? That's pretty messed up. Anyways, so they get there, and the Doctor's like, why do you have all these nuclear bombs? And they're like, there's something wrong with the moon. And he takes out his yo-yo, which actually I believe the fourth Doctor, Tom Baker, used to test gravity.
It has a cool moment where he kind of walks around, and they're like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm testing gravity, and he uses the yo-yo, and he's like, basically, why aren't we just, like, floaty and cloudy? It's really, like, it's pretty dense here. It's weird.
Yeah, and apparently the moon has gotten denser, which, of course, if you know how gravity works, is causing problems on Earth because the tides are rising due to the higher density of Earth pulling on the tides.
Right.
This causes problems later in the episode for me, because it really pisses me off how bad the writing is, but we'll talk about that when we get to it. So the Doctor talks to them, and they say, we're gonna blow up the moon, and he's not that averse to it. He's like, oh, okay, and Clara's like, but we've seen the future, like...
There's a moon there.
And he's like, well, that could have been a hologram or a whole different moon, I don't know, which is actually funny.
Yeah.
Again, this episode, the only thing that salvages it is Capaldi, because even in the
And
worst
even in
episodes, Clara's acting's good, but her character pisses me off in this episode.
Definitely.
But we'll talk about that at the end. But Capaldi is always funny. No matter what they give him, he delivers it in a very funny way. And I think he's, I don't want to say easy to write for, but that kind of humor lends itself to being funny. If that makes sense, it's my kind of humor, the dry kind of sarcasm that comes across. So I always like when he's talking.
And plus, it looks like how he is anyway.
Yeah.
Turns out they're spider things. They're the bad alien sort of the episode, and apparently they're unicellular.
Yeah, fuck this episode sometimes, man. And again, I still like Doctor Who, don't get me wrong. I enjoy the episode, I'll probably watch it again, but I'm judging it by the other episodes of Doctor Who.
Yeah.
The Doctor looks at the spider, which, by the way, Courtney kills with germ killer that she happened to have for cleaning purposes, which is stupid. And he says, "Oh, it's bacteria. It's a single-celled life form, but it's just really big." That's ridiculous.
Right. Okay. Now, when we reveal what the thing is, the big overarching thing, it makes a little more sense. But at the same time, that's not how life works.
No, and I mean, again, with Doctor Who, I allow a lot of suspension of disbelief.
So do I.
Because it's basically a fantasy show with a sci-fi theme.
Absolutely.
But it still has to kind of make sense.
Oh, yeah.
You don't even they didn't have to say it was single-celled to make it bacteria.
Right, no, absolutely not. There's stuff that you could, like, you could just call it a parasite.
Yeah, just call it a parasite or whatever, but they called it unicellular, which is stupid. Oh, and this is a good time to bring up how fucking annoying Courtney is, by the way. In the last episode, I didn't mind her so much. I thought she was okay for a teenage, actress.
Yeah.
And I thought she might do okay, because I don't like kids on Doctor Who. I think it's annoying, and I don't think they add that much to it.
Right, not usually.
She is the worst kid on Doctor Who I think I've ever seen. Her acting is awful.
She wasn't good, and she's really whiny.
She whines all the time. Like, she gets to the moon, and then the minute something goes wrong, she's like, "I want to go home, Clara."
Well, obviously. But you can't now. You wanted to go here. You don't bitch when we get here.
I know, and then she's on Tumblr the whole time, which, again, the joke was kind of funny, but it doesn't make me like the character. The character is still super annoying and whines.
And the shuttle captain made a joke about Tumblr as well. Like, "Oh, my grandma used to post on Tumblr," which is kind of funny.
Yeah, and she goes back on the TARDIS, she's like, "You got any movies or something? I'm bored." It's like, bitch, you're on the fucking moon and you're in a time machine. You're bored? You're the worst.
You are the worst human.
So the Dr. Clara and this woman astronaut, because the other two male astronauts that were with her get killed by the spider things.
Yeah.
They go and investigate and find a nest of the spider things under the moon. And the doctor's like, "I have to investigate." Jumps into the moon, which is actually his theme song is playing a little bit, the incidental music, and that's pretty cool. So Clara and the woman go back to the Mexican space station, which is fun. I mean, it's not necessarily supposed to be a joke, but it made me laugh. Like,
yeah, me too.
Really? The only people on the moon are Mexico? Okay.
Good job, Mexico.
Yeah. So the doctor comes back and he has a scan and he says, "The moon isn't exploding, it's hatching, it's an egg," which, that's a pretty Doctor Who idea. I'm not against that as a story device. That's fine.
I actually thought that was kind of interesting. And then, so that kind of ties into why the giant spider things are considered bacteria, because there's a big-ass life form inside the moon egg, and he kind of shows, like, a scan of it, and you can see it.
It's basically a moon dragon. It looks like a moon dragon.
Pretty much a moon dragon.
Which is weird, because when it does hatch, it doesn't look like a moon dragon, but the scan makes it look like a moon dragon.
It looks like a spider moon dragon
moth thing. Anyway, so then they're like, "Okay, what are we gonna do?" And the doctor's like, "I don't know. You could either explode it and kill the thing, but Earth would be safe, or you can let it hatch and hope Earth is safe." And Clara's like, "You're not gonna, make this decision?" Because if you've seen the show, he makes the decision every episode.
Yeah.
And this time, he's like, "No, I'm not gonna this time." Which, in and of itself, I don't think is a bad idea for an episode of Doctor Who. The doctor's saying, "No, I'm not making this decision for you." But even in the past, when he's done that, if you look at The Hungry Earth, when the Slovene are trying to come back to Earth, he has people sit down at a table and decide, but he still sets it up. He lets them decide, but he's not dismissive of them. Capaldi here comes off kind of like an asshole.
Right, he's like, don't care. I'm going to go fly around and do TARDIS stuff while you guys figure it out.
Yeah.
I mean, the implications are huge, though, because they clearly don't know what will happen to the moon. Obviously, the moon has a lot to do with tidal function, and so that's important to the Earth's entire ecosystem, as well as the lady astronaut brings up the fact, like, what about, the pieces of the moon that could, crash into the Earth? It could be really catastrophic.
Yeah.
It's kind of, and I think this is one of the reasons they moved it back. I don't think it was because it was so scary. I think it's because it has a lot of abortion connotations.
See, I've heard that too, maybe, but I don't think it's that. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that.
She continually calls it a baby.
I guess.
And they kind of have that moral argument, and maybe. I don't know if they're necessarily trying to make a point. I'm just saying, I can understand why people would be upset if they did see it.
Maybe that's one of the reasons I dislike the episode, because at the end of the day, I completely disagree with the moral.
Right, absolutely.
Absolutely. I'm so against it, because what happens, as we said in the beginning of the episode, Clara gets on a comm to Earth, and it broadcasts to pretty much everyone in the world, and says, here's the situation. She explains it. We can kill this moon dragon, and everyone on Earth will be safe, or we can risk it, and risk every life on Earth for this one moon dragon. Turn off your lights if you want us to blow it up, and we'll vote that way. So they wait, and then she looks out the window, and all the lights on Earth are out. Earth is pretty much unanimously decided, or at least one side. They're only facing one side, who knows?
Enough.
But that side, all the lights are off, and they're like, okay, I guess we'll blow it up. But then in the last second, Clara's like, oh, yeah, fuck you, Earth. I let you vote, but nope, I'm right.
Right,
and
so
then
why even call Earth to task? Like, why make a case if you're just
I know.
going to ignore the answer you wanted to give? Now, don't get me wrong. I'm all for a character taking a moral high ground when they're outnumbered. I'm for that. But you don't need the scene that... You don't need the stinger from the beginning of the episode, and you don't need the scene in the end of the episode to even set that up. You could have just ignored that completely and just had those two talk, and that would have been far more interesting, and it would have been just as impactful.
And this scene, in fact, makes me think Clara is a jerk for completely dismissing the views of everyone else on Earth and thinking she's right. And don't get me wrong, the fact that this is a Doctor Who episode makes me know that she is correct, of
Right.
course, but that doesn't mean, as a character, she knows she's correct. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Of course the Earth isn't going to get destroyed. It's Doctor Who. But the fact is, as a character, she disregarded the safety of an entire planet against their will in the chance that they might be okay and save one life form. I mean, if you're really talking about saving a life, it's one life, even if it is a moon dragon, whatever,
Right.
versus billions of people on a planet. That's the wrong choice to make. You know what I mean?
It is the wrong choice to make. But basically, so Clara stops the bomb from exploding, and the Doctor comes like 1 second after that, implying that they were probably, if they were going through with the explosion, that they would have all died. I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know either. But so they get on, and they have a discussion on the beach as they look at the moon. It's a nice little moment, and it kind of it hatches, and it's nice and peaceful, and it flies away, and he mentions that, oh, it's feeling the sun on its back, as if, you know, like, good for you. You made a good choice. Now this thing gets to exist.
Here's the next part of the episode that really bugs me, a lot like the Golden Arrow problem in Robot of Sherwood.
They pan away.
They pan
and have a
away,
discussion.
and there's no moon, and they're talking, and then Courtney's like, what's it doing?
And then
and
they
they pan
pan
back,
back.
full-sized moon. There's a moon there again. They're like, oh, it laid another egg. Wait a minute. So this thing laid an egg bigger than itself in like half a second? That's so stupid.
Like, why did you have to even throw that in there? Like, Hugo had a good idea. They could have laid a small egg and then like, oh, that'll grow over time and your tides will be back to normal. It'll be rough for a little bit, but you made the right choice. That's totally fine. Nope. Full-size moon egg thing.
And it's same orbit, everything.
Yep.
Totally fine. Everything's good.
I don't know.
That's terrible. Not only that,
It's just lazy.
Going back to the problems they were having in the episode anyways, the reason they went to the moon is because the tides were messing up, because the density of the moon increased because the mass of the moon dragon was increasing. In an egg, when like something's like maturing in an egg, it doesn't like gain mass. It takes the nutrition in from the inside of the egg.
Right.
And it forms, you know what I mean? Like, it's not magic. It would have to literally be breaking the laws of thermodynamics to, like, grow and gain mass, unless it's somehow photosynthesizing, which it's not. There's nothing to indicate that, which I know that's a really, really dorky thing to be mad about, but it's just stupid.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It's just one of those things.
Then the final end of the episode, they drop Courtney off. She's happy. I hope we never see her again. She's awful. You know what? In 20 years, if you learn to act and you want to be a companion, come on back. Until then, stay the fuck away from Doctor Who. So the Doctor and Clara are in the TARDIS, and Clara is so mad.
Yeah.
She is so mad at him.
And I hate and love that scene because, on one hand, She's mad at the doctor for not taking charge of the situation that he probably should have, because he's the guy with the most knowledge about this kind of thing.
I don't know. I felt like some of her anger was misappropriated.
Absolutely. It was a weird character moment, but her acting in that moment is very good.
Oh yeah, that whole scene was acted brilliantly. It was awesome. Yeah. But it doesn't make me like Clara. It makes me think she's wrong on a lot of levels.
Yeah, and kind of too emotional about things.
Yeah, I don't know. Especially that coupled with the fact that she completely ignored everyone on Earth when she was giving them the decision.
Right.
It's like she's no better than the doctor in that situation, even if you disagree with what he did.
Yeah.
I don't know. But then she basically says to the doctor, you go away, and you don't come back. So the episode finally ends with Clara looking at the moon, and it's like, oh, the moon dragon's in there.
Yep.
But overall, some of the ideas in this episode were really, really good.
Yeah.
But some of the moments just ruined it.
I think the idea of the moon being an egg and having that moral decision between destroying it or letting it live is a very good idea. It's a very Doctor Who idea. Mm-hmm. The execution of that idea did not pan out.
Correct. I agree.
And also some of the nitpicky stuff, like the mass and the spiders. And
But overall, I mean, I'll still, as I said, I'll still watch it again just because I like Capaldi. I think he does an excellent job and all his humor works, and I think he's a good actor. So.
Absolutely.
Anyway, that's enough of this episode. Next time, we have an episode called A Mummy on the Orient Express, which looks like the most Doctor Who-y episode to ever Doctor Who.
It's a space train with a mummy and a space sarcophagus.
And everyone's in, like, period attire, like, as if it's the, like, 1890s. It's beautiful.
It's you can't make up a more Doctor Who episode.
It reminds me a lot of, like, Voyage of the Dead or whatever it was when Tennant was on the space Titanic. It's a lot like that.
Yeah, totally, yeah.
You know, Doctor Who taking something old-timey, putting it in space. It's a Doctor Who trope, but, you know, I think it'll look good. Especially, I don't think Clara's in this episode. I think this is a solo Doctor episode, which I always like. I like when the Doctor is without a companion every once in a while.
I always like those, too, because he'll usually get a buddy companion for that episode particularly.
And sometimes, too, when they do the thing like in Voyage of the Dead with Tennant, if he has the buddy companion, he might even try and pick them up and take them, but they might die at the end. It allows you a disposable companion that can show how the Doctor deals with death, essentially.
Yeah.
So, I hope that'll be good. Until next time, I'm Hugo.
And I'm Jake.
And this has been Who Cares?
The Doctor Cares.